Hey, hats off to Teofimo though. Absolutely. So many of us, me included, really thought there was a meltdown, and I couldn't get behind. We put a little bit on Taylor by decision. Taylor looked out of his wit. To his credit and Teofimo both, they put on a hell of a fight. Teo was gracious after saying he wanted to, you know,
Yeah.
uh, kill him and whatnot. He was nice to nice to Taylor after. Taylor's been gracious in reply. I've read his follow-up release, congratulatory, deservedly so. Gosh, when Teofimo is on, he's really on, and you can see in how you can really believe that his lung really must have been a problem against George Kambosos, because I can't see a rematch going Kambosos' way. If you have 80% of the damn TO we saw Saturday night, I mean, bravo.
Yeah, and with all the personal stuff going on around, I still want to wave a flag because you don't want that to be a snowball going downhill. Where
right,
like,
wish him the best. Hope he gets the help and sorts it.
He gets himself stable and because one of the things I mentioned could be a possibility there, and hats off to his father said it. His father said, "Hey, my kid's a pretty good boxer, and I want him to brawl." So my kid, and I think that is what happened. I think, boom, once you get into boxing, he was in familiar territory. And there was a moment in the first round, I believe, I like Taylor, and I like the way he fights and everything, but I believe he lacked power in this fight. Mm-hmm. I believe there were a few times that he hit Teofimo with his best punches, his strongest punches, a couple to the body, but in round one, there was one to the face. It may even be the one that damaged his nose. And Teofimo smiled right afterwards. Like, it wasn't the smile like, "Oh, you got me." It looked like "Is that all you got?" smile. And really, that's Taylor's downfall in this fight, is lack of power. He couldn't really hurt him and keep him off him when the guy wanted, to do his thing. And when he was throwing more punches and things, he looked good, but he wasn't. And then here's the other fool part for some of the people. That's why I was worried going to the judges. Teofimo did look worse. Like he'd been through a fight. His nose was messed up. He had several cuts. And Taylor just had a little cut here. But there's no doubt when he got hit, Taylor was the one who would back up and stop firing and go defense when Teofimo was up.
Well, you're right, because at one point, wasn't two judges just had it a 1-point fight?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
it was. I thought Taylor, the 6 or 7, I thought he won a couple rounds early, and I thought he won one of the mid rounds, like a 6-7 that he did not get credit for on like the cards. Sure. That
117, 111 was maybe a little far, is what you're saying. Yeah, and I agree.
It was a good fight in terms of technique too, but
116, 112 seems fair. 115, 113 I wouldn't argue with. I think some of the judges somehow had it 114, 113 or something weird. I forget what they actually had, but it was something weird where it was only a 1-point difference, whether that was a 2-point round or I don't know how these two judges had, but at any rate, I believe it was only.
It was a moment in the 12th round, and it was late in the 12th round where Teofimo looked to go and be trying to knock him out. There was one flurry, caught him, they got tied up, and then there wasn't enough time to really reset and try again.
Yeah.
And but before that, there wasn't any really, like Taylor a couple of times looked like he got caught. Taylor had a weird, footwork coming in weird places he was placing his uppercuts from and things. And I think he got caught with his feet, in a weird spot and looked like he got shaken up a couple of times. I'm not sure he was really hurt.
He had weird footwork all night, I thought. A little awkward. It
works for him because it took Teofimo a little bit of time to figure him out. He was winging. It was interesting. Early in the fight, the first 2 rounds, Teofimo won punches and missed. And that was Taylor by the end of it. And just, so Teofimo did what he had to do. I think he found that it was a boxing match, that he does know how to box and that he is good. And he just settled in and boxed. He showboated just a little bit. Backed off on it, which I think was the right move for him. He hadn't won the fight yet. And also, You know, he's a man I think who needs a little bit of humility in his life at this point too. You know, with everything going on outside. So I thought that was a great sign. I think he actually showed a lot of growth in this fight coming through.
I did too, and more power to him. Again, I take my hat off to Teofimo Lopez. I hope he stays on track because we're gifted with some great boxing when he goes in there and can focus. You know, I don't know if it's obviously there's turmoil, so I wouldn't say it's lack of turmoil, but not too much, not too little, sweet spot. I don't know what it is, but I hope he keeps finding that and that we can match him up against some of the great folks at 140. And I mean, there's a lot of great fights at 140, you know.
Yeah. You know, Gervonta Davis is just a weight class below. You know,
that's true.
If he comes up, or you know, there's a lot of interesting things that could be done there. There was a nice moment in the match too. What I always liked about Teofimo is the personal touch with his family and stuff. There was a moment where around the third or fourth, in between rounds, he and his dad gave him like a pet, like a little kiss, like on the face. And like my kid was shocked. He was like, "What? You know, I don't want my coach kissing me." You know what I mean? But me and the TV, everybody was like, "It's his dad," you know. And I think that is a nice touch because a lot of the times, you know, the fighters got to get rid of the dad trainer that got him started to really make the top level. Right. And here's one of those examples where, you know, if they can stay together through, you know, Lomachenko and on, and they're still together and have that togetherness, and maybe this is a nice story in the making. You know, I like it when the father trains the kid too, because sometimes, you know, they're able to transmit something special, and maybe that's the case.
Well, and that brings up the other matchup where we talked about this a little bit before. We want to see a double billing, Bill Haney versus Lopez Sr. to settle their friendly grudge match. A joke, but Haney moving up to 140 is inevitable. Obviously, he's too big for 135 in the long run, if not already. Haney Lopez, I gotta say, we've got a fight right there too. So
you know, Haney, you know, and Taylor, though superficially have, you know, technique on their side, but not power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think Teofimo, once he figures out that he really doesn't have a lot of danger in there, you know, and he's sturdy, his chin, you know, and he took some shots. You know, he did. There were a few times I think that Taylor hit him, especially to the body once or twice, where Taylor thought that was his best punch.
Yeah. And then I think Taylor ended up going to the head too much after that. Should have stayed with the body. Small little tactical error, I think, on Taylor's part. Should have stuck with the body.
You know, and if as a fighter you land a punch and the instinct immediately when you feel it is like, I got him. And you look and the guy's still there, kind of smiling. It's got to take a little bit of wind out of your sails, and I feel like that was the effect. By the mid rounds, Taylor was beginning to suffer for that.
Yep, absolutely. Great fight, both of them. They both got a pretty bright future ahead. Be interesting to see the roller coaster ride that has been Teofimo's career in and out of the ring continue. I'll be watching. Hey, it's exciting stuff. You know, the 135, 140 range is great. Move up just a little bit. You've got Spence and Crawford, which coming up. We've done a little preview of that. You can find on our channel as well. And just read yesterday that Errol Spence, by no means overlooking Crawford, but is saying that he could see moving up. He thinks his natural weight is even heavier than where he is. And him and, you know, every other fighter within 5 divisions is talking about a payday with Canelo now. So I think Errol better focus on Crawford 100% before we start talking about anything else. But I mention all that because you go from, it's just interesting, a guy, you know, Lomachenko at 126 moves up a little bit. Rigondeaux, those guys, and they cross over with Haney's that could easily be fighting at, you know, 150. That can easily be. It's interesting how those weight classes, people that fought guys you wouldn't expect end up fighting light heavyweights and heavyweights that also fought lightweights at one point. It's really wild.